Okay, what we have here is a manual Yaris. Obviously, by no means are we dealing with a luxury vehicle here, but I will give you the rundown on this vehicle as it is. This is not a high mileage vehicle and has done under 5,000 miles. The first impressions I get from this vehicle are that I feel like I'm sitting very high up and I am not very comfortable in my seated position. The seats, the back of the seats are completely flat, and as I go around the corner I do feel the urge to slip and slide off the chair. It is quite a high-ish vehicle in some respects, and going around the corners, even like I just did at low speed, I am immediately aware of a big lean with this vehicle. I wouldn't like to be driving this vehicle with 4 to 5 people in and a lot of luggage in the back. I think if you were driving down windy roads, you would soon become very, very sick of driving the vehicle. It's not by any means a balanced vehicle in that respect. The visibility of the vehicle though is very, very good. The rear view mirror, got a clear, unobstructed view. The wing mirrors, I'd say they're a little bit low actually. I'd prefer it if they're a bit higher than they are. I do have to look down to look in them, which means I've got to move my head, and the way I see it is if I'm driving along and if I want to look in the mirrors to the left or the right, surely all I'm going to do is move my eyes, but no, you have to move your head as well. So that's a bit of a down point, but I'm sure it's something people could live with. This car does seem to have very funny windows in the front. They have like these mini quarter lights, and I don't really see the point in that though. I think it's probably down to the fact that there's like an oversized window in the actual doors themselves. I'm in 5th gear now, I'm doing nearly 70 miles an hour, and there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise coming from the wind, there's a lot of noise coming from underneath the car. It's a terribly, terribly noisy cab. You know, it's obviously not the most aerodynamic of cars by any means, but the noise coming from this car is irritating. If I was driving this all day long, you know, all I'd be listening to would be the wind pushing against this car as the car pushes through space, basically. The engine's very light and jerky, and the gear change is not very comfortable. It's not the car, it's not the manufacture of the car, it's the fact that it's a small engine car. They are very jittery and jumpy. It's not a smooth transition at all. I'm actually quite surprised with this car because it is a Toyota, and Toyota do make good cars, but this car feels like it's made out of recycled milk bottles. The dashboard is awful. In fact, looking at this dashboard now, if I'd been blindfolded and put in this car and the emblems covered up, I would have said it was a French car because it's a bit quirky in that sense. The controls on the dashboard are exceedingly simple. There's absolutely nothing there at all. It's quite bizarre. But it does have a very, very, very cheap feel to it. And even the steering wheel, it just all feels like it'll come off in your hands. I am not accustomed to Japanese cars being this cheaply put together. I mean, this rim here on the dials, it really does feel like it just pops straight off. It's almost got the feel of a cheap digital watch. The instrument panel is very clustered, and I don't find it easy to read. It's one of those instrument clusters which would be easier to read at night time. To look at the speedometer you know, there's a lot of information there which is packed into a small little hole, and it's just not working for me. It's too many figures there. Apart from that, it's not too bad actually. Steering very, very light, very responsive, but there's a lot of roll in this car. If I give it a little wiggle now, it really does boat all over the place. This is not a vehicle I would want to be in and have to swerve in an emergency, because I don't think you're going to be coming off very lightly. It does have a terrible, terrible feel to it, this car. It's really quite disappointing. It's so cheap to feel to it, it's awful. The only part about this car that looks like it's been put together well is this sat-nav system here. It's very bland, there's nothing attractive about it, nothing appealing about it. It's really quite ghastly. This car doesn't feel like it's built to last at all. It feels like one of those consumer products whereby it's designed to break down more or less around the end of its warranty. It's a very, very, very ghastly car actually. Even for what this car is designed for, it hasn't got any soul. It hasn't got any spirit at all. You know, even the wind wipers look like they're made out of recycled beer cans. It's absolutely dreadful. It really is an awful car. The drive, well, a lot of leaning on the corners. Gear change is very jerky, very jittery car. Very, very slow. Acceleration on this is appalling. I mean, I know it's a small engine vehicle, but it most certainly is not a nippy vehicle. I think if you were thinking about buying one of these, you'd have to ask yourself why. If it's for a purpose, which in most cases cars are, I think you could get yourself something a lot better put together. I think you could get something a lot more attractive, and I think you could get something which was manufactured to a higher specification. This really does feel like it feels like it's been made out of Lego or something. It has that same almost artificial feel. It's really, really quite unpleasant. The brakes are actually quite responsive, and you really get a feel of the vehicle when you apply the brakes. You can really feel the lightweightness of the vehicle. I think if somebody was to buy one of these, they would regret it, and I would advise anyone who is going to buy one, maybe you should take this for a test drive first, because if you can take this for a test drive and find something about it that you like, you know, please come back and post some comments, because I can't find one thing about this car that I like, even for the function that it's designed for. And this car is designed for ferrying kids back and forth to school, it's for going shopping, it's a commuting vehicle, it's for popping in and out of shops and driving around town. And I think you could find something a lot better than this. I mean, this is a very recent vehicle, and if Toyota is putting out vehicles like this, even at the bottom end of the market, I think they're making a terrible, if not fatal, mistake. Because if I had to put it into words, it's a load of crap.